What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. Today we have Brendan Jones with us. Brendan, how you doing today?
Doing really good. Glad you appreciate you guys having me on. Been getting after it this off season and getting excited, ready to go back to spring training, start getting after it.
I think we're all excited for the baseball season to start, even though it just felt like it just ended.
I know, I know. It's crazy. Like it's been over for not that long, but then it's like, all right, a month going, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to get back to it.
Yeah, and that's how I feel. I'm like, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready for some kind of action, something.
Right.
But again, thank you for coming out. Truly appreciate it. So just before we get started, I just want to, ask you, a little bit about your background. I mean, I know you. I think you're from Tennessee, right? For
Correct.
Nashville,
Yeah.
for the Nashville, is
Yeah.
that where you grew up?
Yes, yeah. Lived in this house since I was like two. So yeah, been around the Nashville area my whole life.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So how did you get started with baseball? Is it like did it hand it down from your father or from from your parents, or is it just something you just got into?
Yeah, well, my parents always encouraged me to play a bunch of sports. I mean, my dad never actually he didn't play baseball really kind of extensively in high school or anything like that. But from the time I think I started playing baseball when I was four, started playing basketball when I was four, started playing football when I was six. So I just kind of played everything growing up. And I played all three of those kind of even all the way up into high school. But then kind of as I kept going along and got into eighth grade high school, that's kind of when I knew that baseball was kind of what I loved a lot, and then kind of a path that I thought I had a good chance to play at the next level at. So that's kind of how that progressed.
Okay. So growing up, you watched any baseball? Any team that you followed?
Yeah, I really was never a huge like MLB fan growing up. But we grew up big Vanderbilt fans. So like we had season tickets to football, basketball, and then we didn't to baseball because I had so much baseball going on. But we would always I was always watching like college baseball is kind of what I watched a lot more growing up. And then I did watch some Braves. That was like the closest team to me. I think that was maybe kind of a factor. I didn't really have a team that was like that close to me. The closest team was like 3.5 hours.
Hmm.
So I didn't have as much of a connection to the major league aspect. But then, yeah, some of the college teams, that's kind of what I really kept up with a lot growing up.
Okay. Was there any player that you idolized or modeled your game after?
Yeah, I mean, I think growing up, kind of watching Vanderbilt, I would say like Tony Kemp. I don't know if you guys know who that is. He's a really good outfielder for Vanderbilt. He's still playing now. He was someone I always liked watching play. And then Mookie Betts, he's from around this area, and I actually have had the opportunity. I've hit with him once and met him. So he's kind of been always somebody that I looked up to and loved watching how he plays the game.
Mm, okay. Nick, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, so let me ask you a quick question. So I know you talked about hitting with Mookie Betts, stuff like that, and then Tony Kemp, who's a slap hitter. So do you see yourself more like I mean, for a lot of Yankee fans, I'd say Brett Gardner, right, was a slap hitter around and had sneaky pop, and I saw that out of you this year as well, where you could spit on a ball when it came in. Where does that power come from?
Yeah, that's kind of why I'm have looked up some of these guys and kind of modeled my game after some of the guys I mentioned, like Tony Kemp. Those are kind of smaller guys that weren't known for having as much pop. And growing up, I was small, and I had like no power at all. So I was like, well, I can't hit all these home runs, but I can do what these guys do.
Mhm.
But then kind of as I would say like seventh, eighth grade, I really started like taking the weight room serious. Like I knew I needed to put on weight, so I would pack a lunchbox that was just full of snacks that I would eat throughout the day. So then that's kind of where I started to really like invest into my body and getting stronger and stuff like that. And then I think kind of just from the years of working out and doing stuff like that, that's kind of where I've grown into some power. Been able to hit some balls out of the yard now.
I looked over your numbers from Kansas, and there was a significant jump from 23 to 24. I mean, you even got honorable Big 12 mention. Your numbers jumped to you hit over 300, 942 OPS, 25 extra base hits. You stole 40 bases, which were all career highs across the board for you. Is what would you attribute to that jump?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing would kind of just be maybe the experience that I got from playing that full season. Like I was able to take my lumps and kind of learn learn from different experiences, ups and downs, and I kind of knew what to expect going into that next year of kind of being a full-time guy.
Mm.
So I think that would be the biggest thing. And then, obviously over the fall and off season, I kind of was working, making some swing adjustments. So I think that played a factor as well. And kind of some of my success in that second year, me kind of being a full-time starter.
So, based off of that season that you had, I mean, was there any point during the season where you thought that you could go pro, or was that your thinking for a while?
I mean, obviously, that's kind of always been a dream. Like, my high school, I was like, all right, I want to play the next level, play college baseball, and then kind of
Mhm.
as I got to college, I was like, I want to play professionally. But college, it's tough. There were definitely some moments where I'm like, I don't know if I'm good enough. You got to learn, trial by fire a lot of times. So yeah, I mean that was always a goal. And I knew that, if I had a good season, I knew we had some dudes on our team, so we'd have some scouts that were going to be there. With Culpepper, our shortstop, and then
Mhm.
our closer. So I knew we'd have guys watching and scouts watching. And so I just knew if I could kind of improve some of those hitting numbers, I knew I was really, fast and really good on the bases and defensively that, I would have a good chance.
Yeah, I think on that team there was five kids that were drafted, right? I think it was five. I know Culpepper was one. He
Culpepper,
was a first round
Neighbors,
pick.
Brady Day, me. Might have just been four,
Okay.
but
Um,
yeah.
and prior to the draft, had you heard anything, any, whispers about, you could be drafted or anywhere where you could be drafted?
Yeah, so it's funny you bring that up. Yeah, that like month between season finishing and kind of then you're just waiting in limbo for the draft. That was definitely like a stressful time because you're talking to scouts, you're hearing from your agents telling you like, oh, this team's asking about you, yada yada. And they tell you not to get your hopes up, but it's kind of hard not to.
Hmm.
So you kind of start, so some of the stuff I was hearing was kind of like, oh yeah, I think you got a really good chance to go day two, like stuff like that. So I was kind of, I knew not to get my hopes up, but it's hard
Couldn't
not
help
to.
it.
I was kind of like getting my hopes up, like, all right, I think I have a good chance to go day two. So then once day two, comes around, and I didn't go on that day. I was like kind of disappointed.
Hmm.
But then, obviously my agent was like you're for sure going tomorrow. Like you'll be gone early tomorrow. So that was definitely stressful though. Kind of just like, you're hearing a bunch of stuff. You don't know what to believe. You don't know, the draft's so unpredictable. You don't know how to actually shake out.
Yeah, I could imagine it's a very stressful time.
Yeah.
Did it get to a point where you just stopped paying attention, or were you like watching ticker tapes or on ESPN all day?
No, so yeah, I mean, day two, we kind of, since we were, I was hoping that's when it would be kind of a lot of my family. We were kind of there just to, see how things panned out. Then
Hmm.
after day two came and I didn't go, I was like, all right, like we're not bringing everybody back here tomorrow. Like I'll just, so it was just my parents. We were on my back porch now. I was still keeping up with it because I knew I'd heard from teams, after day two and early before day three started. So I knew I had a pretty good chance that day. So I was still keeping up with it. And then I get a text from my agent, like he said, I'm hearing you're about to become a Yankee. And then probably 45 seconds later, you kind of see on the ticker Brendan Jones, Yankees. So that was pretty cool.
How was that? I mean, how was that going to the Yankees? I mean, they're a historic franchise, big time in the sport. They're not just in the sport; they're a world-known brand, basically.
Yeah, it's definitely a really cool organization to be part of. Yeah, they're, I mean, probably the most storied franchise in any professional sport ever.
Hmm.
Uh, and then you kind of see once you get to the complex and the people that they have there, like the amount of time and money that they have invested into, us, the players, you could really tell like kind of how a step above that they are as an organization. And kind of even just talking to some of my other, guys that are play pro ball, like some of the things that we have access to, like they take really good care of us for sure.
Mm. So you get to the complex for the first time, and what was that like?
Yeah, it was I mean we get there. I remember we woke up like 5 o'clock, we went and did our physicals, and then for the next like 6 days, it was kind of just it was like a camp almost type setting. So they were, we were working out, they were kind of introducing like kind of some of their philosophies and things, lifting, base running. We were doing, defensively, we were hitting. And then they're kind of trying to teach us all their philosophies as well, like implement stuff. And then also, trying to get us prepared because they were about to send us out to, different affiliates. So it was, yeah, it was crazy. We, kind of went that week of camp, and then from there we kind of got assigned, or most of all the hitters got assigned
Hmm.
across the street to the low A team, and from there we were kind of off. So it was crazy. It was kind of hectic, but it was
Yeah,
fun.
I always hear the stories from the pitchers, and they're always interesting. So when you get there, is there something that the Yankees they want you to tinker with, or they just say, "Hey, these are your strengths. These are what we want to work on." Was it something like that?
Yeah, so actually, when we get there, they were like, they kind of really didn't say defensively. They talked to us base running, kind of some stuff that they like to preach and implement. But hitting wise, I mean, some of even the hitting coaches were like, we're not gonna we haven't seen you enough to kind of be already like messing with something or trying to make changes. So we're going to let you play for this season, and then kind of after the year, we'll meet and kind of discuss what we see and what we think we should implement from there. So that was kind of nice. It wasn't immediate like, okay, we need to change this. We were kind of able to just play, and then from there they're like, okay, this is what we see. This is what you maybe need to work on, and this is what you did a good job at. So.
Okay. Um, so stepping into the box the first time as a pro, was there any jitters? How was that? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it's definitely a little nerve-wracking. Wasn't as bad because we didn't have a whole lot of fans in the stands for that first pro at bat, honestly.
Hmm.
So and I just come from a super regional where we're
Hmm.
playing in front of like 15, 20,000 people.
Hmm.
So it wasn't as bad, but it's definitely, some nerves. You kind of got a bunch of coaches and a bunch of eyeballs on you. So you feel like you're kind of have to perform all the time, but then, after you've done it for a little bit, you kind of start to relax and realize that, I mean, you playing every day, it's a long season. Like there's going to be ups and downs.
I mean, while you were at Tampa, I couldn't tell. I think you hit over 300. Your on base percentage was over 500 from what I remember. So I don't think it was too hard for you at single A.
Yeah, it was Tampa was definitely fun. I was feeling
I
good.
can imagine. By game three, I was like, he's not going to be here for long.
Uh, that's fun.
Nick, do you have anything?
Yeah. Who? I mean, I know you haven't been in the minors too long, but even if you want to go back to college, who's the toughest pitcher that you faced?
I would say I faced Skeens when I was in college.
Oof.
Yeah, we faced him the year he went number one overall. We played in a tournament, and I faced him, so that was definitely a tough at bat for sure.
How did it end?
Uh, he got a knock in my first at bat, and then at bat number two, I got a walk, and then at bat number three, I pieced the ball, but the second baseman made a diving play. So I actually was seeing him pretty good.
There you go.
So going from the college level to single A and then eventually high A for you, the promotion you got, did you notice the difference in pitching?
Yeah, that's something kind of I've talked with some of the other guys I've been hit with this offseason. You know, low A, I think it was more similar to college pitching,
Mhm.
except, I think a lot of the guys had probably better stuff across the board low A. But then where I really kind of saw the difference was like high A. You see, pretty much every guy you face there can throw all, three different pitches for a strike in any count. It's not nearly as predictable. You're in a 2-0, 3-0 count. I mean, it's not a guarantee at all that you're getting a fastball. They'll spin you three times in a row. So that was definitely a big difference and big adjustment that I've had to make.
Mm. You're a guy that walks a lot. Is that because you have like an old school mentality when it comes to the leadoff hitter, or is that just your natural tendency to say, "Hey, this is my zone. This is where I'm swinging."
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, I've grown up, I've like hit first like my whole life. And I've always had good speed. So that's kind of been my like motto is just get on base
Hmm.
however you can and then try and wreak havoc on the base pass from there. So that's definitely part of it. But then I think I've always had a pretty good eye. Sometimes my high school coach and my parents would get a little mad at me in high school because some of these high school umpires are just like their zones are huge, and I'm like, it's not a strike. Like I'm not
Hmm.
swinging at it. they're right. Well, these high school umpires are calling it. So I've always had kind of a pretty good eye for the zone and haven't really been willing to, to expand my zone, which I think is a good trait to have.
Mhm. Um,
Great. I got a quick question, Carlos. Is there anybody like that was in the system already when you came through that helped you out with your adjustment in terms of like a player?
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of the guys, I mean, obviously when we were at low A, it was kind of a lot of the draft guys, so we were kind of all in it together. But then once I got to high A, it was definitely kind of nice to, talk with some of those guys that were going through their first pro season. Guys like Rock, Riggio, like Jackson Castillo, Kobe Morales. We got promoted at the same time. So he was kind of like helping guide me through all that, even though we were both kind of getting promoted at the same time. So some guys like that for sure definitely help make the adjustment easier.
when you were at the FSL in low A, you were putting the ball in the air a lot more. I think you were over 50% in fly ball. That dropped down to I think 30. I think I saw it was 39% at Hudson Valley. Was that a part of the game plan, or was just you adjusting to the pitching at that level?
Yeah, I think really just maybe an adjustment kind of to the pitching. Like I said, I was really like feeling good when I was in Tampa. Swing was
Hmm.
feeling good, so I was doing a little better job of elevating the ball, hitting it hard in there at Tampa. So it wasn't like a conscious decision that I made or anything like that. I think it was kind of just adjusting to the pitching and the different and everything like that. I will say too, the Hudson Valley is a little bit harder to hit home runs at than it is at Tampa in the stadium at Tampa. It's like a graveyard in Hudson Valley.
Yeah, I went there last year I went there was my first time in Hudson Valley. Yeah, it was an experience for me. Um, at Hudson Vally, what I saw, if I'm looking at the back of your baseball card, one of the things that I saw was that your batted balls in play dropped a lot in Hudson Valley, but your on base percentage stayed where it typically was at Tampa. Do you think it was bad luck? Because luck plays a lot into the game.
Yeah, I do think that was definitely something kind of when we were even talking at the end of the year and meeting with the hitting coaches. Obviously the stats that they kind of keep track with and like follow are, not even, it's like their own kind of formulas and numbers and stuff like that. But so they were
Hmm.
like, your numbers were actually like just as good, maybe even like
Hmm.
a tick better in high A. Like you were hitting the ball hard. A lot of it was just bad luck.
Yeah.
I can remember a good amount of games being frustrated after couple 100+ mile per hour lineouts.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's kind of just how the game is.
Hmm. Yeah, I
You'll
think
you'll
because
have the days where you hit a ball 73 and it drops in for a hit, and then you'll hit one 104 and it'll get caught. So
yeah, I think I saw there was even an uptick in your line drive rate, which I think you were up like 6% there. So when I looked at that and I looked at the batted balls and play, I'm like, it just had to be bad luck. Um, it happens, like you said, it's part of the game. Sometimes
yeah,
it just works out that way.
for sure.
Um, going back to Tampa, you had a lot of success there. Um, was there anyone that you could you put your eyes on a bit and say, you know what, you got me this time, but I'll get you next. It's almost similar to what Nick was saying before. Was there any pitcher that you faced at Tampa that you were like, yeah, he's good, but I know what I got to do the next time?
Oh man, you
Again,
see
you
so
weren't
many.
there. I think you were there for two series.
I know. You see so many guys in like a short period of time. It's kind of hard to. I mean, I do remember kind of the first at bat in my first game. I can't even remember the name. We were playing the Daytona Tortugas, I think is what
Mm,
they're called.
hmm.
And I faced some lefty, and I mean his breaking ball, like he was throwing so many breaking balls. I was going up to bat. I was like, all right, I'm sitting breaking ball, and I still swung through two. I remember my second one I swung through. I actually threw my bat into the like netting because I was so sweaty. I came back to the catcher. I was like if he throws this again, I'm not going to be able to hit it. But luckily he spiked it and I got walked.
Hmm.
So I mean I do remember that kind of being the first one. I was like, man, this is some of these pitchers are they're different. Like some of their stuff is really good.
Nick.
Yeah. I mean, what's your goal going up for this year, come 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to necessarily hit like or set like numerical goals hitting wise, just because, like we talked about earlier, like hitting is so, you could be swinging it really good, hitting the ball right at people. And so then if you're looking at kind of just a stat or something like that, then it's like, oh, you think you're hitting bad, but you kind of really trying to set more like process oriented goals, like, kind of how can I set a routine that'll set me up to be successful? What scouting report wise can I, should I be looking for and will help me to be as successful as I can? And then obviously, I always have a goal. I want to steal as many bases as I can. And then I want to try and be one of the best defenders in the org for sure.
Is
Yeah.
there any is there anything that you want to like that you're focusing on the most right now in the off season? Like what's the biggest thing that you're trying to work on?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is kind of some of my hitting, some of the stuff that they've kind of talked to me about, kind of being able to load into my hip a little bit more and some stuff like that. So that's kind of what I've been focused on hitting wise. And then obviously I've still been getting after it with my, working out and speed and stuff, trying to even improve that if I can.
You
Yeah.
got to play. I might ask you one more question. I'll let you
No, go
probably
ahead.
figure it over, but
Yeah.
you got to play with some impressive players, man. In terms of like high end kids that we have. I mean, I look at that Hudson Valley team next year. It's going to be insane. I'm assuming that's most likely where you're going to start the year. With George Lombard or Roderick Arias. How do you feel to be in a lineup with that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's it's pretty different too. Those guys like we go places on the road. I kind of feel bad for them sometimes because everybody that we see, a bunch of kids, people looking for autographs, right? Where's George? Where's George? Where's Roderick? But yeah, those guys, they're fun to watch play, fun to watch kind of how they go about their business and do what they do for sure.
Are you close to any of the guys from the draft or Hudson or Tampa?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, some of the guys with the draft kind of the way it fell too, kind of, we were all like, it was a bunch of hitters taken in a row.
Hmm.
We kind of all moved up to Tampa together. So, yeah, I mean, some of the guys like Austin Green, Dylan Lewis, those were some of my roommates when I first got there. So we're pretty close. And then, yeah, like I said earlier, like Kobe Morales, Garrett Martin, some of those guys that I met up in high A too have definitely been, guys that made a
Did
friendship.
did you get promoted at the same time as Jackson Castillo and Dylan Hassel, or they went before you? I don't recall.
They were before me, so yeah, they were already up there by the time I got up there. Um, I think they actually got promoted when I got promoted to when we went up to low A at Tampa is when they went up to high.
Um, in your mind, I mean, I hate to even ask this, but in your mind, like best case scenario, everything works out. What would you think is your timeline for MLB debut, or is that something you've been thinking about?
No, it's not something I mean, obviously I'd like to get there as soon
That's
as
the
I
goal
can.
always.
But there's so much stuff that's like out of your control.
Mhm.
You never wish an injury or something like
Right.
that. It all depends kind of what things look like in the org and you being able to move up. Just trying to worry about what I can control really is my main thing, kind of playing good and being consistent every day. And I know that I'll be rewarded for that.
Mhm.
Maybe it might not be on the exact timeline that I want to be, but I just gotta put my head down and stay consistent with all that stuff.
Mhm. Mhm. Nick?
You just remind me so much of Brett Gardner, man. I mean, that guy is just a gamer every day, man. And I look at you as like, Yankee fans, man. We had some people had a love-hate relationship with him and moved him over from center field, being an elite base stealer, a slap hitter, had sneaky power, and then went and played one of the best left fields and in my opinion, one of the hardest left fields in all of baseball in Yankee Stadium, man. He played it unbelievable. I just see you as that, man, like a guy that's just a gamer and comes out every day and I hope, man, it works out for you this year and all your goals are met, man, and we get to see you in the Bronx soon.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, Brett Gardner is not a bad comp to have for sure.
As a sneaky guy, man, later pick, and he should have been, like I said, he should have been a first round pick with the way he played. I think he had like a 40 WAR or something like that throughout his career. So that's an impressive kid.
Yeah, he could play for sure.
Is he one of the guys that you've seen down there at the complex?
No, I haven't seen him down the complex. I've seen Nick Swisher,
Mm,
which is pretty cool.
he's crazy. I love him.
Yeah, he's got some energy for
Hmm.
sure. So yeah, it's haven't got to see a whole lot of those guys. So we'll see. I'm sure at spring training you get to see a lot of those guys around at that time.
Have you gotten a chance to see where you guys are gonna? Oh, well, you're not at Tampa. You're gonna be at Hudson Valley, but I know Tampa's gonna move over to the other field this year. Um, I mean, I think that's probably the last. My last question is, it's kind of similar to what Nick was asking before, but how would you measure the 2025 as a successful season, or would you have any way of measuring it?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of at the end of the year, I want to look back. I mean, my biggest like numerical goal that I would like, I want to be steal the most bases that I can. I'd like to be, up there in all of minor league baseball with stealing bases. That's kind of one thing I really pride myself on.
Hmm.
But then kind of from a hitting aspect, just like I would say like not getting too high or too low. Like, just when you're hitting really good, like not coming to the park the next day, like assuming that it's going to roll over. Like, every day's a new day. Same thing when you're not hitting good. Like, don't let the lows get really low and kind of drag on. So that would be the biggest thing for me is just kind of like consistency, like not letting bad days snowball into bad weeks or bad month.
When those hits aren't dropping for you, is there anything that you go back to like take your mind off of that?
I mean, I would say the biggest thing that I'll do like mentally is, I always have something in my head that I'll like in my approach, I'm kind of like always in my mind when I'm going to the box, I'm like, I'm trying to hit the ball right back at the pitcher. But sometimes when I'm struggling, like I'll change that and like my mindset is like, I'm the best player on this field. Like I'm about to go prove it. So I just, you almost tell yourself that and like, almost try and convince yourself of that, even, when you're struggling, like, you think you're the best player out here, like act like, like start playing like it.
Okay. It's a good mentality to have. I mean, with that said, we'll let you get back on with your day. And again, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Truly appreciate it, and wish you a lot of success this season.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate y'all having me on.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
man.
night. Later, guys.
All right, y'all be good.